Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History, coin lovers and history hunters. Today, we're traveling back to the late 1930s to uncover the story behind a small but powerful piece of American history, the 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance it might look like any other bronze cent from the past, but the truth is far more exciting, especially when you pay attention to the mint marks stamped beneath the date. If you stay with me to the very end, you'll find out exactly how much one of these rare beauties can be worth, and I promise the number will leave you stunned. To understand why this coin carries so much interest today, you need to picture the United States in 1939. The country was slowly rising from the hardships of the Great Depression, industries were rebuilding momentum, and every cent that passed through a person's hands had meaning. Abraham Lincoln's portrait had already been a familiar face on the penny for 3 decades, but the wheat reverse symbolized more than currency. It represented growth, strength, and the American spirit pushing forward during tough times. When you hold one of these coins today, you're not just holding copper and tin, you're touching a moment in history almost a century old. Now, let's talk about the mint marks that change everything. In 1939, Lincoln cents were produced at 3 locations. Coins with no mint mark were struck in Philadelphia, coins marked with AD came from Denver, and those stamped with an S were minted in San Francisco. Most people never notice these tiny letters, but collectors today know how much power they hold. The location of the mint and the number of coins produced there can turn an ordinary cent into a prized collectible. The Philadelphia mintage was the largest that year, with millions of coins entering circulation across the country. These are still collectible, especially in high grades, but their value really starts to climb when they are flawless and fully red in color. Denver, with the D mark below the year, saw a lower production and far fewer of those coins survived in pristine condition. As for San Francisco, the S mint mark is the treasure hunter's favorite. While many 1939 pennies have been worn down in pockets and drawers for decades, uncirculated examples with sharp details, bright luster, and original surfaces are incredibly rare and highly desirable. Collectors today are drawn to eye appeal and precision. Those rich red tones, crisp strike lines around Lincoln's jacket, a fully defined wheat stalk on the back, and a clean field with minimal marks can raise the value dramatically. For nearly a century, most of these coins have passed through thousands of hands, so finding one that still looks brand new is like discovering a time capsule from 1939. That's what drives the demand through the roof. Some of the most sought-after versions include full red uncirculated pieces with either the D or S mint mark. Even the tiniest minting variations, like double dies, minor off-centers, or planchet flaws, can send collectors into a frenzy. Error coins from this year are quite rare, but when they appear, they draw serious attention. Coins kept in original rolls, old family collections, safety deposit boxes, and forgotten coin albums are still being discovered today, and those finds can lead to shocking auction results. Condition is everything. A 1939 penny pulled from an attic box that still shines like the day it was made can easily outperform thousands of lower-grade examples. Grading services look for original color, sharp edges, and lack of scratches or wear. The higher the grade climbs, the higher collectors are willing to pay, and with nearly 9 decades behind this coin, perfect examples are incredibly scarce. Any wheat penny from this year with deep luster and no signs of handling immediately raises eyebrows among seasoned numismatists. Think about how many pennies from the 1930s were spent on candy, newspapers, and everyday essentials. Most were nicked, bruised, and worn down to a dull brown color. That is what makes pristine survivors so special. They avoided pockets, drawers, machines, and circulation entirely. They might have been saved by someone who recognized their beauty, protected in a coin board by a curious child, or stored in rolls by someone who never imagined their future value. Today, those choices pay off in unbelievable ways. Today we're going back to a remarkable year in American history, a time when the world was emerging from the shadows of war and hope was rising across the nation. The spotlight is on a tiny piece of copper that many people overlook every day, but collectors know better than to underestimate it. We're talking about the 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that has become a symbol of survival, memory, and hidden value. What makes certain pieces from this year so special has everything to do with mint marks, preservation, and rarity, and the numbers behind the most valuable examples will leave you speechless if you stay with me until the end. The year 1945 marked the closing chapter of World War II. Millions of Americans were returning home, industries were shifting from military production back to civilian life, and the country was entering a new chapter of growth and rebuilding. Even something as small as a penny had value and significance in those times. The Lincoln cent had already been circulating for decades, featuring the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the iconic wheat ears on the back. It represented the everyday life of Americans who were buying food, saving in jars, rationing goods, and planning for a brighter future. This penny came from 3 different mints across the country. Coins struck in Philadelphia have no mint mark beneath the date, those made in Denver carry the letter D, and coins produced in San Francisco show the mark S. Each location produced large numbers, but the journey of these coins over the decades separated the ordinary from the extraordinary. Most of the pennies from 1945 found their way into the hands of workers, soldiers, shop owners, and families. They were passed around, scraped against other coins, spent on candy, tucked into pockets and purses, and eventually worn smooth by time. That is what makes the survivors in high-grade condition so amazingly valuable today. Imagine a coin from the mid-1940s that still glows with its original copper luster, untouched by oxidation, free from scratches and fingerprints. The sharpest examples show every line in Lincoln's hair, every fold in his coat, and every grain on the wheat stalks on the reverse. These are the pieces collectors dream about. They didn't just survive, they were preserved. Perhaps someone set them aside in rolls, tucked away in a family keepsake, or stored in a collection before they ever saw a cash register. Collectors obsess over the details. Color matters. The brightest red examples, known as full red coins, command attention like nothing else. Combine that with a perfect or near-perfect strike from the Denver or San Francisco mints, and you have a coin that stands out from millions of others struck that same year. While Philadelphia made the highest number of cents in 1945, mint-marked coins in pristine condition can command much higher interest, especially when the surfaces remain original and untouched after nearly 80 years. Then there's the allure of rarity within rarity. Every now and then, someone finds a coin from 1945 with a small flaw made during production, an off-center strike, a double die, a planchet anomaly. These mint errors were not intentional, they happened by chance and often went unnoticed at the time. But collectors today know that a single variation can send value skyrocketing. A slightly misaligned image or a doubling in the lettering is all it takes to catch the eye of a serious buyer. The passage of time has only added to the mystique. The generation that first used these coins has mostly passed on. Their keepsakes and jars of pennies sometimes remain hidden in basements, attics, trunks, or family boxes. Someone cleaning out an old home could unknowingly stumble upon rolls that haven't been cracked open since the 1940s. And inside could be coins that look as if they were minted yesterday, untouched by the decades that have gone by. Professional grading has become the standard way to separate common from extraordinary. Experts examine every inch of the coin, from the fields around Lincoln's portrait to the faintest detail on the wheat ears. They measure luster, strike quality, contact marks, and originality. A coin that reaches the highest levels of mint state grading can cross into a category most collectors only dream of owning. And once those grades are assigned, prices at auctions can climb higher than anyone ever expected for something once worth just 1 cent. The excitement surrounding this coin is not just about the material. It's about the journey, the time period, the endurance, and the astonishing survival of something so small and humble through changing eras. Most people who see a penny from 1945 think of war heroes, ration stamps, and patriotism. But collectors see potential, beauty, and value that history can transform. While many of these coins in circulated condition remain affordable and easy to find, the elite examples break every expectation. Today we're diving deep into the story of a modest-looking coin that many people walk right past without realizing the fortune it can carry. We're talking about the 1949 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin born in the years after World War II when the United States was rebuilding with pride and determination. Millions of these coins were minted, but very few have survived in the kind of condition that turns collectors' heads today, and the difference between an ordinary pocket find and a true numismatic prize can be life-changing. The end of the 1940s was a time of rapid change. Factories that once produced for the war effort had shifted back to civilian needs. The American economy was accelerating, industries were expanding, and families across the country were settling into a new era of growth and opportunity. The Lincoln Wheat Penny, already in circulation for 40 years by that time, remained a symbol of affordability and everyday life. Yet over the decades, most of the coins minted back then were handled, scraped, passed around, and eventually worn down to where the details faded and the luster disappeared. That's why the survivors in exceptional condition are so incredibly rare. And the mint mark beneath the date holds the key to unlocking the real value. In 1949, the United States Mint produced these pennies in 3 separate locations. Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark and were struck in the highest numbers. Denver coins carry the letter D under the date, and San Francisco coins show the letter S. The lower the mintage and the better the preservation, the greater the excitement among serious collectors. But even more important than where a coin came from is the quality it has today. Over 70 years have passed since these pennies were first spent on groceries, comics, and bus fares. Most people never thought twice about saving them. They rolled around in pockets, rattled at the bottoms of drawers, and clinked in tin cans and coin jars. That is exactly why finding one in original, uncirculated, red condition is like striking numismatic gold. When those smooth, bright surfaces are untouched by age and handling, when Lincoln's profile is razor-sharp, when every wheat ear on the reverse shows full lines with no flattening, collectors start paying attention. The difference of just a few tiny marks or slight changes in color can mean thousands of dollars of difference in value, and then there are the rare imperfections that increase desirability even more. Some 1949 wheat pennies show doubled features, slight misalignments, or subtle striking anomalies, quirks that happened during minting. Error coins are always a magnet in the numismatic community because they combine rarity with uniqueness. No two are exactly the same, and collectors love owning something that stands apart from every other coin of its kind. A coin struck slightly off-center, a planchet flaw, or a doubling in the lettering can transform a simple cent into something extraordinary. Think about how these coins have traveled through time. Imagine a handful of them saved by a child in the 1940s, placed carefully in a small box or collection folder, forgotten for decades and rediscovered by a grandchild cleaning out an attic. Picture someone working at the mint putting aside a roll of especially clean coins, never realizing one day the world would consider them treasure. Lincoln cents from this era can still appear in old family estates, safe deposit boxes, inherited collections, and even flea markets and antique stores. But the real gems are the unhandled pieces that manage to stay protected, their color preserved like the day they left the presses. As the years passed, coin grading services emerged to evaluate these old cents with professional scrutiny. They examine strike sharpness, luster, surfaces, and originality. They assign grades that can launch a coin into elite territory. Higher mint state grades, especially those designated full red, are where the true magic happens. These coins shine with natural brilliance untouched by oxidation and carry the exact appearance they had generations ago. It is that visual perfection and historical survival that makes collectors willing to pay staggering prices. The thrill of hunting one down is part of the excitement. People search coin rolls, inheritance boxes, and old albums hoping to stumble on a flawless 1949 example with a visible mint mark and unblemished detail. Others attend auctions and estate sales knowing that bidding wars can erupt when a gem-quality piece appears. The numismatic world is always buzzing with interest whenever a high-grade specimen from this year shows up, especially if it carries the D or S marking and exhibits razor-sharp detail. The story of this coin is not just about copper and design. It's about survival, preservation, rarity, and the fascination collectors have with holding history in their hands. Even a small cent can become a prize when it meets the standards of top-tier condition. And while most 1949 pennies in circulation-grade condition remain affordable, the finest examples command astonishing respect and even more astonishing prices. Today we're focusing on a coin that might still be sitting in jars, drawers, albums, or old boxes across America without anyone realizing what it could be worth. The spotlight is on the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin many people recognize but few truly appreciate. What separates an ordinary 1-cent piece from a life-changing discovery comes down to condition, mint mark, and rarity. Stick around, because the truth behind some of these coins is more unbelievable than you can imagine. The year 1950 marked the early days of the post-war boom in the United States. The country was thriving with renewed prosperity, families were moving into new homes, industries were expanding, and children were collecting coins for fun without knowing any of them might one day be worth a fortune. The Lincoln Wheat Penny was already a beloved classic by this time, carrying the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the front and the symbolic wheat ears on the reverse, two curved stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This penny was produced in 3 major mints across the country. If the area under the date has no mint mark, it came from Philadelphia. A small d indicates it was struck in Denver, and an S signifies the San Francisco Mint. Millions were made at each location, but not all pennies had the same journey. Some were circulated immediately and passed from hand to hand on subway rides, in candy shops, at gas stations, and through cash registers. Others were saved quietly by collectors, bank tellers, and families with an eye for shiny new coins. Over time, nearly every one of these pennies experienced wear. They rubbed against other coins, collected fingerprints, picked up scratches, tarnish, and stains. But a handful avoided that fate. A few remained sealed in paper rolls, tucked into wooden boxes, hidden in metal tins, or protected in coin albums. These protected survivors are where the greatest value lies. When a 1950 wheat penny shows full original red color with no signs of circulation, that coin becomes a magnet for serious collectors. The details on these coins tell a story. Look closely at a high-grade example and you'll see Lincoln's coat lines sharply struck, the fine textures of his hair, and the indentation of each letter around the rim. Turn the coin over and the wheat ears stand tall and detailed, with every line beautifully preserved. The strength of the strike, the absence of contact marks, and the glossy luster are what separate a coin worth pocket change from one that collectors compete over, but there is more to the story than condition alone. Certain mint marks, especially those produced in lower quantities and preserved with exceptional care, can skyrocket the value. The Denver and San Francisco mints often attract more attention, especially in the finest grades, because fewer of their uncirculated coins survived untouched. Combine that with the natural eye appeal of a brilliant copper surface, and collectors are quick to notice. Error coins from this year add another layer of excitement. A slightly off-center strike, a doubled image on the date or lettering, a planchet flaw, any imperfection created at the mint can make a coin one of a kind. These rare variations are chased by those who love uniqueness and want something no one else can own. The charm of an error coin lies in its unpredictability. It might still be sitting undiscovered in an envelope or an old roll from a bank decades ago. Auction houses and grading companies have seen firsthand how powerful rarity and condition can be. When a nearly flawless 1950 penny appears with perfect surfaces, rich color, and a strong mint mark, bidding can become intense. Collectors know how rare it is for a coin struck over 70 years ago to look almost exactly the same as it did when it dropped from the presses. That kind of preservation doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of careful storage, perfect timing, or pure luck. Every time someone cleans out an attic or opens a forgotten coin jar, there's a small chance a gem from 1950 could be hiding inside. Families pass down collections without realizing what they contain. Old coin folders that once cost a few cents at a hobby shop might now hold a coin worth more than most cars. That's why enthusiasts keep searching and learning, because history has a way of tucking treasure into the quiet corners of everyday life. The magic of these old Lincoln cents lies not just in copper and age, but in the mystery of survival. Most coins did their job and wore down over decades. Very few kept their beauty intact. And it's those outstanding survivors that prove how powerful a penny can be in the world of numismatics. Step into the past for a moment and imagine the United States in the year 1917. The world was at war, the nation was changing rapidly, and industries were booming to support a new global era. In the middle of all that history, a small copper coin quietly entered circulation, the Lincoln Wheat Penny from 1917. Most people who spent it never thought twice about it. They used it to buy bread, newspapers, stamps, or candy. But here we are, more than a century later, and collectors are searching desperately for the survivors from that time. What was once just a penny has now become a precious relic of American history. The Lincoln cent was still fairly new in 1917, having replaced the Indian head cent less than a decade earlier. Abraham Lincoln's bust on the obverse and the graceful wheat ears on the reverse were symbols of honor and strength. People admired the design, but no one imagined that over 100 years later, some of these coins would be worth staggering amounts of money. Pay attention to the mint mark on coins from this year, because that tiny letter stamped under the date has a massive impact on desirability today. 3 minting locations were responsible for producing these coins in 1917. Philadelphia produced coins with no mint mark. Denver used the letter D, and San Francisco used the letter S. The San Francisco coins tend to attract the most attention from collectors, especially when found in pristine condition, because far fewer of them survived the decades with their original detail intact. When you hold a 1917 penny with a mint mark in exceptional condition, you're not just holding currency, you're holding a time capsule. Now consider the conditions these coins faced over generations. Think of pockets lined with coal dust, wooden cash drawers, leather satchels, cold winters, humid summers, and endless handling. Most of the cents from that time show heavy wear, dark surfaces, and faded details. Many have scratches, dings, rim nicks, or spots of corrosion from years of circulation. A coin from 1917 that still shows sharp lines in Lincoln's beard, strong edges on the lettering, and full wheat details on the reverse is a miracle of preservation. That's why collectors go crazy over high-grade examples. They want luster. They want clarity. They want surfaces that have not been cleaned, damaged, or dulled by time. Original red or red-brown color, even after more than 100 years, is incredibly rare. When a 1917 coin from Denver or San Francisco shows up with full original color, minimal marks, and sharp strike definition, the bidding wars begin. And then there are the error coins, the unexpected treasures created by small mistakes at the mint. Some 1917 pennies show doubling in the date or lettering. The famous 1917 double die obverse is one of the most sought-after errors from this era. Letters like "In God We Trust" and the date itself can appear doubled, creating a dramatic visual effect that collectors chase with passion. A coin with an error like this can be worth many times the value of a standard piece, especially when the surfaces are well preserved. Over the decades, countless coins from this year disappeared into circulation and were melted, lost, or damaged. But a few escaped that fate. They might have been kept in drawers as keepsakes, placed in albums by early collectors, or held by families without realizing their future value. As time passed, these untouched survivors became rarer and rarer. When professional grading companies evaluate them and give them high mint state grades, their worth can soar beyond what anyone expects from a 1-cent coin. The beauty of collecting a piece from 1917 is more than its metal, it's the connection to American history. This coin existed during the presidency of Woodrow Wilson, during wartime production, and while the nation's identity was being reshaped. Every detail on the coin tells a story that continues to live on through collectors, historians, and enthusiasts who recognize its significance. Think about how old this penny is. It has outlived generations, survived world wars, economic collapses, technological revolutions, and cultural shifts. And yet, a handful remain almost untouched by time. Those are the coins that command jaw-dropping figures in the numismatic world. While common, circulated 1917 pennies can still show up in collections or old coin jars, the top-tier examples are the true treasures. Clean fields, bold details, smooth edges, and strong mint marks are what make them shine in the eyes of experts. Every year, people bring coins to auctions, hoping that one of them might turn out to be that special survivor. And occasionally, a 1917 wheat penny appears that looks like it came straight from the mint despite being struck over a century ago. That's when collectors line up with open wallets and dreams of owning a piece of perfection. Now prepare yourself for the part that makes hearts race and jaws drop. Among the finest known examples, when the mint mark, condition, color, and detail all align in near-flawless harmony, a 1917 Lincoln wheat penny has reached the value of $120,000.